All right. If you are in the market to buy a car, I just wanted to share a few tips because we went through this yesterday. Morning to night, dealerships looked at private sale online as well. We ended up with a vehicle we brought home that evening. And I'm going to try to approach this humbly because I have all kinds of things opinions about how to buy a car, like not buying emotionally, and not believing a single thing they say because it's just a storyline. Look at the car itself. I like the top three models. My personal opinion: Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, probably in that order. But you got Hyundais and Kias that are popular too, and other things, and the price points seem to be sometimes reasonable there versus a brand new Ford or Chevy or whatever is out. And then the whole trend to SUVs these days. We did, find out that we're pregnant this month, but we're not going the SUV route yet. But what I did learn about car buying after dealing with, like I said, dealerships and other sales pitches yesterday, and I already knew the dealerships were going to be priced minimum probably 10,000 up, unless they just happen to have a used car in the back lot, and they're going to have a profit margin that's going to be greater. Maybe a positive is service records and Carfax immediately available. And safety checks that they may run, not to mention just cleaning up the car. But so dealerships maybe, and some of them have a strict policy they claim of one owner or no accident history or something like that. Some even claim they're being competitive with things like Craigslist. That's what one told us yesterday. I don't know about all that. But here's the thing. All right. I want to buy a car the right way. Okay. That means two things. Number one, the facts of the car and price points and all that goes with that, and how you calculate it. But secondly, the people in your life. Who cares if you get the right car the right way, but it doesn't please your family or significant others that you're in partnership with? So that is something you got to think about. So we ended up with a Hyundai Elantra. I wouldn't have picked Hyundai, but my wife, a number of our family members drive them, love them. They seem to be long lasting. So I said, okay, and we'll see how it goes, right? You can always default to that. We'll see how it goes. But she also had some particular things she wanted, sunroof in particular. And turns out the Hyundai she got was a limited edition that had not only sunroof, but leather seats and Bluetooth and some things like that. Tinted windows, whatever. And again, I'm not one that needs much of that, but it's nice. And it's about her. She is putting more money into it than I am because she wanted the nicer car and I just need to beat her. That's how I roll usually. I do like nicer cars. I've driven a nicer one for a while, but that's basically our price point was about the $5,000 or $6,000 range. And we had saved the money, right? And we know there's cars out there in that price range. But how old is too old on a car? How many miles are too many miles on that car before you say, I'm going to walk away from that one? By the way, one of the most powerful pieces of negotiation, especially with dealerships, is the ability to stand firm and then walk away. We had one dealer chase us out the door before we even got out the door. Well, what about this? Because when we were done with the conversation, and it looked like he was done, they're good actors. And then all of a sudden he came running back. Had to do that to us yesterday. But anyway, we ended up not buying from him. But here's the thing. I look at the age of the car. Why is that significant? Because Edmunds.com says after about 6 years, the car has suffered some of its greatest rates of depreciation. Year one, it loses about 25% of its value. And then about year 6, it's going to lose another chunk of value, however you measure it at that point. The years in between, years 2 through 5, are not as aggressive on the depreciation. But of course, the car's always losing value every year. We could buy between years 2 and 5, but now we're looking at a price point of 10 to 12,000 or more And since we don't necessarily have that much saved for a car, we're looking at car payments. So what if we could buy after year 7 and have 5 or 6,000 saved, about half of what you would have to have otherwise, and avoid car payments altogether and still get a fairly newer car, which we did. It is doable, by the way. So the year is important for the aspect of depreciation. You get a better price point. So it put us in the $5,000 or $6,000 range. And again, we had saved that, so avoiding interest on that, right? You don't want to be upside down on a car loan where you owe more than the car is worth because you just keep paying little tiny amounts, and then when you think you're going to trade it in or sell it, you can't even pay off the loan. That's a problem. Matter of fact, our car is a repo, the one we bought yesterday, and apparently there was clearly in the records a lien on that car that went to auction a year or two ago, I believe. So apparently, it looks to me like somebody took a title loan out on that car. They borrowed against their car, didn't pay the title loan back, and it got repossessed. That's the best estimate I can figure. It did have one accident, apparently minor. There is an airbag light on now. That accident was back in 2013, so it was a few, 5-6 years ago. But with the airbag light, we want to get that checked out just for safety. Other than that, and I felt like a dumb car buyer that I didn't let that become a glaring thing to me. I didn't even realize the significance of it. And well, we actually started Googling a little bit and realized, okay, that light can mean different things. It may mean a dysfunctional airbag when we get it. And that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars, if not more, to replace. Hopefully it's just the sensor or something that triggered the sensor. So we'll have to see. But we want safety. I think just this past week, research came out of why are survival rates higher with front seats than back seats. You would think most impact on the front, for running into something would impact your front seat people is because airbags. Back seats don't have airbags typically. And so that was just in the news. So we want our airbags to work. The survival rate's higher. So you got to think about safety, right? And then so besides, of course, safety, the age of the car we just talked about. What about the mileage? We were telling dealerships wherever we went, we wanted it to be under 100,000. We did a number of sites online, and we would always price it under 100,000 basically, or at. Well, that price point consistently bumped us up into $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 vehicles. When we budged just a little bit and said, okay, what if it's 115,000, 120,000, or maybe up to 140, but no more? And that's assuming we're getting a good model that can last into a 200,000 range. We wanted to be able to get a good 100,000 miles on this car once we, start driving it. Well, that just totally opened our doors when we budged just a little bit. It put us in a lower price point, and so mileage is a factor, but I don't want it much over 100 and something thousand, just because that not only timing belt and things like that are going bad, but just the overall wear of the car. There's going to be a radiator and a fan issue, and then you're going to have some. I'm not a mechanic, so you're going to have other things start to go wrong, and depending again on the model and how it's built. But anyway, and how it was treated and different things. So my decision, and so anyway, the age of the car, the mileage on the car, and then the price point. I just downloaded the Kelley Blue Book app, and I just put car after car in there because it's right there on the sheet. We even went to dealerships that were closed, little ones. And we would just walk up to the windows of the cars, put in the data, Kelley Blue Book, only a matter of seconds practically, and now we had a fair market value for the car, a private sale value, and a retail value. And somewhere in between, retail and private sale, the retail and fair market, if we were getting in that range, we felt pretty comfortable. I know it's a dealership and they're going to get a profit. Well, they got to eat too, and I wasn't going to make a big haggle out of that because the last time I've bought all my cars private sale before. And my last experience was terrible because it was a rebuilt title and it did not show as such. The owner had taken out insurance, full insurance claim, loss of the car, but then they kept driving it and never had the title rebuilt. So it looked like a clear title until I got to register it, and they said, you cannot drive this car. You got to park it and prove that the rebuilt status of this, or get a rebuilt title, and by proving it's been repaired because they took out insurance on it. Turns out it was just for hail damage. The same kind of cars Warren Buffett buys. But I had to go through 3 weeks of paperwork and pictures and go back to the buyer. And thankfully, I bought it locally, and I had to go to their place of business and climb up the go up the steps or whatever and say, look, I cannot drive your car legally that you just sold to me until we deal with a bunch of crap. And they had never had it repaired, so there was no service records to get. It just came down to taking pictures of the car, sending it to Nashville, waiting 3 weeks, getting a sticker in Tennessee. Now we're in Georgia. Now we had a physical inspection when I moved it to Georgia. Oh, that was a whole other expensive process, but it worked out in a day. Whereas it took 3 weeks in Tennessee, but you didn't have to have an inspection unless they chose. Anyway, long story short, little sticker to put in the door to say it's not a stolen car for whatever reason from the state, in case state police came to my house to check on it, which they could have done. And then it said, and then we were able to drive it. I was able to drive it. That was back when I was single. Now we live in Georgia, and I just decided to remove the haggle. Okay, that's just me. So my thing, on the whole matter, again, besides the age of the car, the mileage on the car already, the price point, and obviously always safety and condition of the car. Are there any oil leaks? I pulled the dipstick out of a number of vehicles we looked at yesterday just to make sure I didn't see any evidence of some sort of corrosion in the oil, or for sure not water and oil mixed and blown head or something stupid. We did do some test drives. We chose a small dealership because they have the lower price point cars. We still were able to see some service history, even though some say you can't with the smaller ones, but we did. And we had totally avoided car payments. And my recommendation there is when you buy a beater like I'm used to buying, which you can get for maybe $1,500, if it runs well, good built car, I like to research models. But then every month that you're not making a car payment, you can put that payment in savings and pay yourself in your future car fund. So then you can get a car that might last longer than a year, right? Last 5 or 6 or more years. But again, you don't have to have a car payment. You're paying no interest. You have to worry about the whole financing mess. One of the dealerships told us yesterday that a nice, cheaper car in the $6,000 range, the guy couldn't get financing. The deal fell through. And now we should be the buyers of it. And then they wanted to punish us. Boy, this peeved me off. They wanted to punish us $400 and something because we weren't going to use their financing. We were going to pay cash. And I got hot. I didn't say anything. The guy walked out of the room. He said, well, do you want me to still run up the final papers of what it would cost out the door? I said, absolutely. So he ran off. He says, he came back with his papers. Manager's never done this before. But they took off that fee for not using our financing. I was like, good riddance. That wasn't right. I didn't smart off. I don't do that in dealerships. I'm not one to get emotionally verbal. I did do that one time, and I always regret it. Years ago, for my brother's sake. I got mad at a dealer. He clearly lied to us, and I just told him he was a liar to his face. My goodness. And I still bought the car at my brother, it all worked out. The guy still worked with us, but, I just was hot. And so I tried to keep my emotions in. I just sit silently, let them run their mouth. Don't believe a thing they say when it's story time. And I just look at the facts of the car. And then I kind of develop. I know the fair value of the car already. You always go in with that. I tell them usually straight up, I'm a cash buyer. And of course, they don't like that. And then, if I tell them I don't like their price point, they want to charge us about $400 for a waxing or something that had been done special on the car. They want to charge a docking fee of, I think, $499. So a car that was around $6,000 was now going to be $8,200 instead of, it was going to be $64,500, and then it went up to $82 and out the door. I just was not happy. So with that idea, and so we can say, look, we can offer you this amount. You can make that happen on the paperwork, or we can just head on. But we ended up just saying, we'll think about it, and we left. And we thought about it. And we might have gone back if it was our last resort. It gave me hope that there were cheaper cars out there. But we just decided. We found some other cars of the same type at a different lot, and they only had one. Well, here's another lot that had a bunch of them. And we could look at a number of options and price points. And I think we saved over $1,000 just moving to a different town, looking at a few other dealerships that we didn't even plan on. And we found it through Facebook Marketplace. And it wasn't just private sale on there. It was a little dealership and actually we ended up walking up the road to others. And we just started walking up the street and going dealer after dealer until we found this one. It met what Sarah wanted. And so I felt like we bought it the right way. I get really frustrated and stressed when we're putting $1,000 on a vehicle and you don't even know if it's going to work. You know, I've had a number of experiences. I've been broken down the interstate before. I know how that feels. Not just running out of gas, that too, but I'm talking about broke down with cars flying by you at 70 or 80 miles an hour and you're trapped on the side. And then you're walking like, where's a house? You know, I remember, where am I going to find a house to make a call, you know, to do whatever I need to do to get help? And I guess I had a cell phone back then. It was a long time ago. But anyway, boy, I did a really bad thing one time. I was on the interstate. I wasn't broke down in this case, but I backed up in the emergency lane because oh, never mind. Anyway, it all worked out, but don't do that. So learn from my mistakes, if anything. Anyway, so I don't like breaking down, I'll tell you what. But that doesn't mean I need a brand new car. And brand new cars can break down too, by the way. So we do the best we can with what's smart, but then I want my wife happy. And so that's also smart, right? I'm not the only one driving this car. It's mainly hers. So even though we're both paying for it or whatever, I guess. So taking another person's opinion into account when they are also affected by the decision and you mutually agree to make the decision, very important when you have a family. It's not just you anymore, well, like when you're single. So not getting mad when they don't see things your way. And I struggle with that very beginning of the day, car shopping. And I was like, we shouldn't even shop together. Should we go separately? And she's like, no, two heads are better than one. Well, turns out she was right. And I had to take some humble pie because I thought we were losing hope. You know, if we're going to shoot down every car we see. And turns out, no, there was hope. We got up to Cleveland. Hey, there's hope up there. We ended up going to a car show, an antique car show, free on the street, and eating at a little shop off the street. It was a wonderful experience. And I went from being very mad at the beginning of the car shopping day to then having lunch, which you always feel better after lunch, if you need that, if you get low energy. And so got our energy back and drank blackberry lemonade, which was a specialty. Got it special for my wife and for us. And we looked at these antique cars and had a blast. And I realized I'm enjoying my wife's company instead of being mad that we don't see eye to eye. And from then, that point on, I started just saying, taking a back seat, saying, you know, hon, ultimately you're the one doing this anyway. And, you know, I'll chime in as helpful, perhaps, but what do you want? What do you see? She got good sense. And we started putting our heads together. And, you know, with the car we bought, I might not have selected as the perfect car for my viewpoint because I didn't have the same desire she had. But even though it was a limited edition, it wasn't overpriced. Matter of fact, we got $1,000 off sticker value of the cost. And we couldn't get him down any farther than what he offered right there. So we got it below fair market value, $900 less, and but more than we would have paid in private sale. But we'll see what happens. We got the insurance on it last night. You know, you can call 24/7 your insurance company to remove a car and add a car and other claims and issues. Whether or not your office is closed, I didn't realize that. And then come to find out, our insurance, we already had 5 to 14 days of new car coverage. So it's automatic when you buy a new car. I didn't know that. So I was like, we didn't have to call you at night after we bought this car of shopping all day? She said, no, not necessarily. So that worked out. It was 50 minutes on the phone. Over 30 of that was just getting someone to answer. Anyway, escapades in car shopping. Still got to get it actually registered. Apparently, the dealership applied for all of that already. We got the paperwork. Waiting on really license plate to come in the mail. And everything's legal to the best of our ability. And we just need to go. We're going to do an extra oil change and get a light fixed. And we know some brake light wasn't. I didn't check all the lights. See, another slip. But anyway, you can get all the way to the details of car buying. I just want to share some tips for anyone that lasted this long listening to it. Hopefully it's helpful. And your next experience, you know, go in with a brain, with some common sense and not just emotion. And then it's really exciting when you buy something, but then you get shot down if something goes wrong. You just expect that with used cars and you budget for it. And you're just grateful every day for the blessings and the needs that God meets in our life. And that's the way I look at it.